A very good morning to all the students of class 8. My name is Prerna and I'm your English teacher. And today, from your English book Skyline, we are going to be reading chapter number 7. This story is about a man who was an expert in breaking the safe, who was an expert in opening the locks of a safe. But something happens in his life and he transforms into a good human being, into a responsible citizen. So let us read the story to understand that what happened in this person's life that he transformed into a good human being. Here we go. This is chapter number 7 and the name of the chapter is A Retrieved Reformation. All right, so here we go. In the prison shoe shop, Jimmy Valentine was busy at work making shoes. A prison officer came to the shop and led Jimmy to the prison office where he was given an important piece of paper. It said that he was free. Jimmy took it in a tired kind of way. He had served nearly 10 months of a 4-year sentence, but he had expected to stay only about 3 months at the longest. Jimmy Valentine had many friends outside the prison. A man with so many friends does not expect to stay in prison for long. Now, Valentine, said the chief prison officer, you will go out in the morning. That is, you will be set free. This is your chance. Make a man of yourself. Make a man of yourself. Become responsible. Do something constructive with your life. You're not a bad fellow at heart. Stop cracking safes and live a better life. Cracking safe means opening them with the intention of theft. Me? Said Jimmy in surprise. Why? I've never cracked a safe in my life. Oh no, laughed the chief prison officer. Of course not. Let's see now. How did you happen to get sent to prison for opening that safe in Springfield? Was it because you wouldn't prove an alibi for fear of compromising somebody important? Or was it because the jury didn't like you? You men always have a reason like that. You never go to the prison because you broke open a safe. So when the chief prison officer is advising Jimmy to live a better life, he says, oh, I'm already a very good person. I've never cracked a safe. So the prison officer tells him, you people always make excuses, and he tells that because you made a robbery in Springfield, that is the reason you got arrested. And indirectly he also says that I know there were other people who were involved with you. Me? Jimmy said. His face still showed in surprise. I never was in Springfield in my life. Take him away, said the chief prison officer. Fix him up with the outgoing clothes and bring him here again at 7 in the morning. Better think over my advice, Valentine. At 7:15 in the morning, Jimmy stood again in the office. They gave him a railway ticket and $5. These $5 were supposed to help him rehabilitate himself and become a better man. Rehabilitate is to basically re-establish yourself more in a physical way. That is, you work on your physical health. Then the chief prison officer put out his hand for a handshake, and that was the end of Valentine prisoner 9762. So 9762 was the number which was given. The prisoner number given to Valentine was 9762. Mr. James Valentine walked out into the sunshine. He headed straight for a restaurant. There he tasted the first sweet joys of being free. He had a good dinner. From there, he went to the train station. He gave some money to a blind man who sat there asking for money and then boarded his train. 3 hours later, he got off the train in a small town. He went to a restaurant of Mike Dolan, who was alone there. After shaking hands, Mike said, "Sorry, we couldn't do it sooner, Jimmy. My boy, it wasn't easy. Feeling all right?" "Fine," said Jimmy. "Is my room waiting for me?" So now Jimmy Valentine is asking this person, Mike Dolan, that I hope my room is set for me. He got his key, went upstairs, and opened the door of a room at the back of the building. Everything was just as he left. It was here they had found Jimmy when they took him to prison. There on the floor was Ben Price's collar button that had been torn from the detective's shirt band as Jimmy was fighting to escape. So the detective who had caught Jimmy Valentine, his name was Ben Price. There was a folding bed against the wall. Jimmy pulled towards the bed. Jimmy pulled the bed towards the middle of the room. He slid back a panel in the wall and pulled out a dust-covered bag. He opened it and looked lovingly at the burglar's tools. They were complete. Everything he needed was there. They had been made of a special material in the necessary sizes and shapes. Jimmy had invented 2 or 3 tools himself, in which he took pride. It had cost him over $900 to have these tools made at a place where they make such things for his profession. And what was Jimmy's profession? He was a thief. He would break safe. In half an hour, Jimmy went downstairs and through the restaurant. He was now dressed in good clothes that fitted him well. He carried his dusted and cleaned bag in his hand. "Do you have anything planned?" asked Mike Dolan. "Me?" asked Jimmy in a puzzled tone. "I don't understand. I work for the New York Bread and Cake Makers Company, and I sell the best bread and cake in the country." Mike enjoyed these words and laughed. Jimmy had some milk. He never drank anything stronger. A week after Valentine, 9762, that was his number in the prison, left the prison, a safe was broken open in Richmond, Indiana. No one knew who did it. $800 were taken. 2 weeks after that, a safe in Longsport was opened. It was a new kind of safe. It had been made, they said, so strong that no one could break it open. But someone did and took $1,500. Then a safe in Jefferson City, $5,000 were taken. This loss was a big one. So now, the moment Jimmy Valentine was released from the prison, 3 robberies back to back had taken place. Ben Price was a cop who worked on such important matters, and now he began to work on this. He went to Richmond, Longsport, to see how the safe breaking had been done in those places. He was heard to say, "I can see that Jim Valentine has been there. He is in business again. Look at the way he opened this one. He is the only man who has the tools to do it. And he is the only man who knows how to use tools like this. Yes, I want Mr. Valentine. Next time he goes to prison, he's going to stay there until his time is finished." So now Ben Price, looking at the manner in which those safes were broken, he said that this is definitely the work of Jim Valentine. And he said that I'm going to now arrest this man and make sure that he serves life imprisonment. Ben Price knew how Jimmy worked. He'd learned about it while working on the Springfield case. Jimmy would go from one city to another far away. He always worked alone. He always left quickly when he was finished. He enjoyed being with nice people. For all these reasons, it was not easy to catch Mr. Valentine. People with safes full of money were glad to hear that Ben Price was at work trying to catch Mr. Valentine. One afternoon, Jimmy Valentine and his bag arrived in a small town named Elmore. Jimmy, looking as young as a college boy, walked down the street towards the hotel. A young lady walked across the street, passed him at the corner, looked at him, and entered a door. Over the door was the sign, the Elmore Bank. Young men like Jimmy were scarce in Elmore. Jimmy saw a boy near the bank and began to ask questions about the town. After some time, the young lady came out and went her way. She didn't seem to see Jimmy as she passed him. "Isn't that young lady Polly Simpson?" asked Jimmy. "No," said the boy. "She's Annabel Adams. Her father owns this bank." So now Jim Valentine, because he wanted to know about the bank, he wanted to know about the people in the bank, he started questioning this boy near the bank. And he just asked, way of asking was that, so Jim asked this boy, isn't her name Polly Simpson? So this little boy, out of innocence, he says, "No, this girl is Annabel Adams, and she's the one, her dad is the one who owns this bank." Jimmy went to Planter's Hotel, where he said his name was Ralph T. Spencer. He got a room there. He told the hotel man he had come to Elmore to go into business. How was the shoe business? Was there already a good shoe shop? So now Jim Valentine portrayed himself as Ralph T. Spencer, and he said that he's a businessman who deals in shoes. All business in Elmore was good. The hotel man hoped Mrs. Spencer would decide to stay in Elmore. It was a pleasant town to live, and the people were friendly. Mr. Spencer said he would stay in town for a few days and learn something about it. He said he himself would carry his bag up to the room. He didn't want a boy to take it. It was very heavy. Mr. Ralph Spencer remained in Elmore. He opened a shoe store. Business was good. He also made many friends, and he was successful with a wish of his heart. He met Miss Annabel Adams. He liked her better every day. So now Jim, who portrayed himself as Mr. Spencer, he started falling in love with Annabel Adams. At the end of a year, everyone in Elmore liked Mr. Spencer. His shoe store was doing very good business, and he and Annabel were engaged to be married in 2 weeks. Mr. Adams, the small town banker, liked Spencer. Annabel was very proud of him. He seemed already to belong to the Adams family. So Spencer had already mixed up really well with the Adams family. Not really Spencer, it was Jim Valentine. One day, Jimmy sat down in his room and wrote this letter, which he sent to one of his old friends in St. Louis. "Dear old friend, I want you to meet me at Sullivan's place in the Little Rock next Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. I want to give you my tools. I know you'll be glad to have them. You couldn't buy them for $1,000. I quit the old business a year ago." What was the old business? That was opening the safe. "I've got a nice shop. I'm living a better life, and I'm going to marry the best girl on earth 2 weeks from now. It's the only life. I won't ever again touch another man's money. After I marry, I'm going to the West, where I'll never see anyone who knew me in my old life. I tell you, she's a wonderful girl. She trusts me, and I wouldn't do another crooked thing in the world. Your old friend, Jimmy." So it was the love, it was the affection that Jimmy got from Annabel and her family, that he had transformed into a good human being, and he decided that I'm never ever going to break open a safe. On the Monday night after Jimmy sent this letter, Ben Price arrived quietly in Elmore. He moved slowly about the town in his quiet way, and he learned all that he wanted to know. So now Ben Price extracted as much information from every possible person in Elmore to make sure that Jimmy Valentine was there in Elmore. The next morning, Jimmy was with Annabel and her family. He was going to Little Rock that day to buy new clothes for the wedding. He was also going to buy a gift for Annabel. It would be his first trip out of Elmore. It had been more than a year now since he had done any safe breaking. Many in Annabel's family went to the bank together that morning. There were Mr. Adams, Annabel, Jimmy, and Annabel's married sister with her two little girls aged 5 and 9. They passed Jimmy's hotel and Jimmy ran up to his room and brought along his bag. Then they went back to the bank. All went inside, Jimmy too, for he was new one in the family. Jimmy put down his bag. Annabel, laughing, put Jimmy's hat on her head and picked up the bag. "How do I look?" she asked Ralph. "How heavy this bag is. Feels like it is full of gold bricks." "It's full of things I don't need in my shop," Jimmy said. "I'm taking them to the city, to the place where they came from. I'm going to be a married man. I must learn to save money." The Elmore Bank. Remember who owned this Elmore Bank? It was Annabel's father. The Elmore Bank had a new safe. Mr. Adam was very proud of it and he wanted everyone to see it. It was as large as a small room and it had a very special door. The door was controlled by a clock. Using the clock, the banker planned the time when the door should open. At other times, no one, not even the banker himself, could open it. So, to ensure the safety of the to ensure that no one breaks into the safe, Annabel's father, he had set up the timer. He explained about it to Spencer. Mr. Spencer seemed interested, but he did not appear to understand very easily. The two children. So Annabel's sister, she had two daughters, May and Agatha, enjoyed seeing the shining heavy door with all its special parts. While they were busy like this, Ben Price entered the bank and looked around. He told a young man who worked there that he had not come on business. He was waiting for a man he knew. Suddenly, there was a scream or two from the woman. They had not been watching the children. May, the 9-year-old girl, had playfully but firmly closed the door of the safe, and Agatha was inside. The old banker tried to open the door. He pulled at it for a moment. "The door can't be opened," he cried. "And the clock, I hadn't started it yet," Agatha's mother cried out again. "Quiet," said Mr. Adams, raising a shaking hand. "All be quiet for a moment. Agatha," he called as loudly as he could. "Listen to me." They could hear, but not clearly, the sound of child's voice. In the darkness inside the safe, she was wild with fear. "My baby," her mother cried. "She will die of fear. Open the door. Break it open. Can't you men do something?" So now Agatha's mother was devastated. She was into that hue and cry situation that my child is stuck inside and she might lose her daughter. "There isn't a man nearer than Little Rock who can open the door," said Mr. Adams in a shaky voice. "My God, Spencer, what shall we do? That child, she can't live long in there. There isn't enough air and the fear will kill her." Annabel turned to Jimmy and said, "Can't you do something, Ralph? Try, won't you?" He looked at her with a strange soft smile on his lips and in his keen eyes. "Annabel," he said, "give me the flower you're wearing, will you?" She could not believe that she had really heard him right, but she put the flower in his hand. Jimmy took it and put it where he could not lose. So he told Annabel that there's a flower that you're wearing in your bun. Please give that to me. And he put that in his coat. Then he threw off his coat. With that act, Ralph D. Spencer passed away and Jimmy Valentine took his place. So what had happened? looking at the situation that now the safe is stuck and it's nearly impossible to open it. Ralph T. Spencer, who was actually Jimmy Valentine. So now Jimmy Valentine, in a way, revealed his true identity. How did he do that? Stand away from the door, all of you, he commanded. He put his bag on the table and opened it flat. From that time on, he seemed to not to know that anyone else was near. Quickly, he laid the shining, strange tools on the table. The others watched as if they had lost the power to move. In a minute, Jimmy was at work on the door. In 10 minutes, faster than he had ever done it before, he had opened the door. Agatha was taken into her mother's arm. Jimmy Valentine put on his coat, picked up the flower, and walked towards the front door. As he went, he thought he heard a faraway voice called Ralph, but he did not stop. So Annabel tried to stop him. At the door, a big man stood in his way. Who was it? It was Ben Price, who had come to arrest Jimmy Valentine. Hello, Ben, said Jimmy, still with a strange smile. You are here at last, aren't you? Well, let's go. I don't care now. So now Jimmy Valentine is telling Ben Price in a very normal, in a way calm, in a way composed manner that you can now arrest me. It's absolutely fine. And then Ben Price acted rather strangely. I guess you're mistaken, Mr. Spencer, he said. I don't believe I know you, do I? And Ben Price turned and walked slowly down the street. So Ben Price, who very well knew that this Ralph D. Spencer is Jimmy Valentine, he still let him go. Why did that happen? Can you think of the reason why that happened? Why Ben Price suddenly changed his decision? Because he could see through that Jimmy Valentine had transformed into a very loving and caring and responsible human being. So he decided to forgive Jimmy Valentine and he let him free. Wasn't that an interesting story? Thank you so